Welcome to Rethinking Balance Sheet, and let's rock. Good morning, everyone. Good Friday. Welcome to Rethinking Balance Sheet. For those who missed that introduction, that was Necole, awesome learning AI-based app. And as always, every Friday, we talk about the balance sheet, we dissect it, we look at it, and we try to make sense of what it all means. And joining me is my co-conspirator and partner in crime. I would say crime, right? Because Ravi, I think what we do here is quite criminal. But Ravi Navaranam from Century Capital joins me today, as he does every Friday. And every week we look at different aspects. Sometimes we talk about intangible assets like brand and other things. But Ravi, today we've got something very interesting, right? We're going to also look at a different aspect of the balance sheet, and we're going to talk about an intangible asset. Tell us what we're going to talk about, and maybe you can share a little bit on our special super duper guest that's going to be joining us shortly.
I think that's just about right when you say super duper guests. In fact, we've got quite a few super duper guests coming up in the next few shows, all powerful ladies in finance. And today we are very, very fortunate. We have Ms. Nora from Maybank, who's the chief for their human resource part of their business. And what we wanted today to talk a little bit about is, it's great that we have this show, and we're basically telling people, we're giving them fish. Today we're going to teach you how to fish, how to build the human capital to get people who can really help you with that balance sheet. So I think we are very, very fortunate we have Ms. Nora on the show today, and I really encourage all of our guests out there to ask us many questions. So we've got a long list and probably a little longer show today, but we'll try to get as many through the questions and let her share her wisdom in terms of how.
So let's get Datuk Nora Manaf, Chief Human Capital Officer of Maybank, on the show. Datuk Nora, thank you so much for joining us today.
I said Miss Nora, Datuk Nora. My apologies. Let me get that cleared first.
No worries.
No, Nora is really nice about all these things, right, Nora? And Nora, really happy, Datuk Nora, really happy to have you on our show. And I think, one of the things I think that Ravi briefly mentioned is that sometimes when we look at the balance sheet, one of the things we ignore is our people. Because it's not listed as a tangible, as an asset, although I think intrinsically almost all leaders understand that the most powerful asset you can have are your people, because that's something that's so hard to replicate and that's so hard to reinvent. And no real machine has, there's manual sort of labor you can replace, but really the knowledge type of workers is so irreplaceable, and people are so essential. So maybe we can kick off by maybe a quick introduction to yourself and a bit about how Maybank invests, or businesses in general should be investing in human capital.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me, Roshan and Ravi. Well, this is how I introduce myself. It's in response to how I was introduced. Okay, I'm a chartered accountant by training, right? And my entry into human resources, the world of human resources, was actually by accident. It wasn't by design. It wasn't, facilitated or planned. But I am thankful. I am blessed. Right? I feel really blessed for the people who opened doors for me, because this is the best place to be, to drive a business. So absolutely agree with everything that you and Ravi said as intro to this session. Now, and I chose my title. Okay, by design. It's human capital, right? And I think I'm gonna give some examples of facts and figures, if you like, as to why this is not just our passion or our thoughts, right? But this is reality. And I am therefore glad that I am in like-minded company. Okay, so to reinforce, human capital's as an asset, as a very very important leading indicator to successful and sustainable businesses. Okay, first let me go back to your platform, which is balance sheet. Okay, so human capital, right? The workforce capability, right? The, as Ravi said, having people in your businesses, right, who has demonstrated having the skills, the experience, and that they remain. So, I choose my words really carefully because that's what you need to look at, right? And they remain. Now, if this is your historical record, then this capability is a potential intangible asset under IFRS, under acquisition accounting, right? Sure, practically it's hard to pinpoint and measure, but it is still part of goodwill and therefore ability to generate business cash flows for the future, for the current and future, and for a sustainable business. There you go, right? So it is really out there. And Larry Fink, BlackRock, right? Someone who manages the largest asset under management in the world, right? What did he say? Profit and purpose is inextricably linked. And in his letter to the CEOs, right? I think it was 2017 or 2018. That's exactly his message, although not in the same words, but his message, hey CEOs, right? Take care of your employees and your customers, and the profit will come. Right? So what else, right? What else do we need to reinforce what the importance of what we're going to be talking about and hopefully dissecting in the next few minutes. Yeah, how's that for intro?
Fabulous, Ravi. I'm sure you have tons to say.
Well, I think
yeah.
Yeah, I think just to get the ball rolling, Maybank has probably one of the best trading sessions, and you can actually, like I said, I can already see it being in the financial sector itself, at least at the corporate banking side. You can see the trading and also begin to start to pay off in a big way. But maybe just share what you all do. I appreciate not everybody can replicate what Maybank's doing. It's not just large budget and so forth and so on. But maybe just give us a flavor on what Maybank's doing, and then we can go down to how it can help all types of businesses from learning from what you guys do well.
Okay. Well, Ravi, again, for context, I think, because I believe our audience right now are people in SMEs, right? Yeah. And I always get this snide, statement or question which says, yeah, all well and good for you because you're running a large organization. What about us? Okay. So I'm going to put it out there before you even mention it, if any of you mention it, right? Remember that you are so, so important, okay? SMEs, right? What, in the US, SMEs are 44% of US GDP, right? And I don't know about this data, but something that I saw a few days ago.
Correct.
99% of businesses in the US are SMEs. Okay. In the UK, 45% of the workforce, which is equivalent to 12 million, are employed within the SMEs. Right. Malaysia, you've got your figures. I'm sure you do. 48.4%. Yeah. 48.4% of employment, right, is within SME, right? Contributing to 40% of the country's economic growth. My goodness. And you influence at least 7.3 million people of our 32 million population. So you have a lot of responsibility as well as potentials. And it is exciting because you can grow your business whilst growing our people, right? And I am a big, everything I drive, it is about taking care of all stakeholders. Okay? I always tell my team, oh, by the way, they get this drummed over and over. You're not a HR manager. I always tell them, you're not HR. You're business. You're a business manager. Okay? It's just that you carry a toolkit of human resource management development tools and tricks. Okay? But you run a business. If there is no business, there's no need for you. There's no need for HR. So, I flip that mindset. Yeah. So please ensure, right, that I'll give a flavor of what we do in Maybank, right? But that's what you do, and it's an investment, and your people, as Larry Fink says, will ensure that you will be successful. But it takes two, right? So gone are the days, and this is the other thing that I need to really emphasize, because this is the principle behind everything that we do in Maybank, right? It's like I said, they are a stakeholder. Employees are a stakeholder. Don't treat them like children, right? So gone are the days where you say to staff, right? You say to your employees, just do as I tell you. You don't need to think, yeah? Just do, right? And you'll be fine, and we'll be fine. You're gonna lose your business, right? Plus, gone are the days when people don't have choices, right? Even helpers, house helps. Of course, many of them are now illegal, okay? But I have the highest respect for them, because they know they have a choice, and they know they have better choices. So those who are not treated well by their employers, they run away. But they're still in the country, and they are still in demand. I know for a fact, although I don't employ one of them, okay? I know for a fact, I've got friends everywhere who employ them, and they are enjoying their life. They have choices of who they want to work for, because they are so in demand, and they're earning much more than being cooped up in one house. So your employees, the people you depend on to help you run your business, they have choices, mind you. And you will lose what we talked about earlier, goodwill, reputation, those count in terms of your sustainability of your business. Okay, so Maybank. We invest in our people in terms of their training, in making sure that they are skilled and they are capable of doing what they're supposed to do, right? Right through from certification, right? And we give an opportunity to even people who let's say are not qualified accountants, but because they have a good track record, they are business minded. We have many who we say to them, hey, you know what? If you want to be in our pipeline for our CFOs, we have plenty of CFO positions, we'll sponsor you. So we have people who've actually acquired certifications within the organization, coming from different areas of the organization. So right from certifications through just in time, right? I'm ex-Intellier, so Intelliers have this language drummed into them, right? JIT. So, and with digital platforms today, it's so much easier for JIT at your fingertips through your smartphones, right? So we do that. We ensure that they are skilled, competent, current in their knowledge. I was asked by my previous board members, because this was the early days of the transformation, right? They asked me, Nora, if you make our people so good and so sexy, right, isn't there a risk that people are going to be poaching them? Okay. Now, this is my answer to that. And today they're all believers. Okay. This is my answer to that. What would you rather have? A staff who is with us because they have no choice? Or would you rather have someone who stays with us even though they have a choice? Right? There you go.
Yeah.
So this is what we've been building.
And Nora, I guess, you made an earlier point I thought that was very interesting about the skills that people learn in jobs especially with the SMEs and so on. And I guess the reverse is now true to some extent, right? Because I see a lot of folks wanting to work with us. We are much smaller, but we offer agility. We offer, we constantly pivot. We have a lot of different ways to be, somewhat, I would say, on the job, but I mean, it's lessons that you cannot learn in many bigger organizations. So I think the bigger question would be is, as you see the world sort of move into this new era of learning is not necessarily certifications and all the likes, the credentialings that are out there, but it's really about being able to navigate this turbulent sort of VUCA environment and be able to somewhat be adaptable and flexible and agile. How does so I look at it and say, look, I think the SMEs have an advantage, for especially younger folks, right, who want to understand how to build a business, how to grow it, how to see different stages of cash hemorrhaging stage to the good times, to kind of managing the cash flow and the balance sheets. But how do you incorporate that sort of learning into bigger organizations? Because it's not so easy to be able to create such an environment where that kind of learning, but it's going to be absolutely critical to take the organization forward in the future, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree, right? You SMEs and have the advantage. What we are trying to do, the incumbent large organizations, what we are trying to do is to change our climate and our behaviors. People talk about culture, it's such a big word, right? Behaviors, right? Our modus operandi, our day-to-day, right? To yours. So here's the secret if you didn't already know, right? So we do scrums, we teach people hackathons, right? Agility at work. We've been investing, of course. We've been investing since 2018, right? To future ready our people. And what does that mean? In layman words, is exactly what you said, Roshan, right? So we want them to not be hankered by the legacies, by the practices, not so much policy. Changing policy is the easiest part, right? We can change policies tomorrow, right? But then it's what is
the belief systems and
right. It's conditioned in people's minds. Many a times we encounter stuff and we say, but why didn't you do this faster, right? And the reasons they give is no longer relevant. But it's something that has been ingrained and they've been conditioned for the last 10, 15 years, right? So that's the harder part, right? So yes, we do that. I've got a team of people who are teaching people to behave faster, and to not give the old excuses.
Yep.
That I have to get my bosses, and my bosses, when the bosses are saying, just go ahead, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's the other that I was gonna highlight, right? So the training, the 70-20-10, right? The 10.
Yep.
All that I said is the 10. Now we're talking about the 70 and the 20, right? 70 is experience. So we have, for example, a platform ourselves, which is called our Crowdtivation, right? And this is our internal geek platform. So, we've introduced this a few years ago, and so it's helped the organization become faster. So what we're also saying is, if you have a task, a task, right? And that's what we're doing today. Skills is the new currency, right? So if you can do it, you can move. So we are catching up really fast in terms of agility, right? So our people can just be geeks within the organization.
And that's very, 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 very interesting, because I always believe that part of it is crafting those experiences, and you can only craft it not so much by policy but by rituals, right? You institutionalize certain rituals, which I think this gigs piece, meaning that employees can do other things in other departments, right? Is that what gigs? Okay, yeah. So that sounds very interesting. And we got a ton of questions from folks. So maybe Ravi, if you don't mind, I'm gonna deviate from our questions a little bit and
no
jump
worries.
because so Bharat says listening to you is like music to my ears. So either he's on drugs or Bharat's a fine young man, right? So can you share one or two Maybank rituals? I mean, we talk about rituals, right? To ensure that your customer experience is what you promise. How do you get your people to have the purpose that you have, Puan Nora or Dato' Nora?
Okay. Well, Bharat, thank you for your reinforcement, and I also pick out a little bit of cynicism there, but never mind. I'm happy to say this and acknowledge that everything that we are doing. I mean, it's not perfect. How can it be perfect, right? We have 43,000 people. Everything is driven by human beings. So yes,
absolutely.
Consistency
Correct.
is still something that we are grappling with. But I think we are,
getting there,
ahead of others in terms of our speed of, making sure people are able to transform, right? Rituals, well, Green Lane is one, right? We introduced the term, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, right? To break like I said, the practices that's been conditioned, right? Because we were pulling our hair, right, in meetings and saying, what do you mean we have bureaucracy? We've flattened, we've done everything, right? That any of the consultants can tell us, right? So, and so, Bharat is absolutely right. It's about rituals, right? So having green lanes, as real interventions that it's an everyday thing, all right? And not just words, right? That has helped. Okay, so it is a ritual. It is a ritual, right? When we find there has been things that has not moved, right? We go back and call everybody together, quick huddle, and say, wasn't there a green lane? What is it that didn't happen, right? The other ritual, I think, which is really, really key, especially for a large organization, easier to be done and important by smaller outfits. Leaders have to go down. That's a ritual, right? I'm half dead, right? In the early days, especially because I was actually on the ground, and my colleagues, of course, my EXCO colleagues, we visited all branches. Why? Because we didn't have to. We didn't have to, right? I was on the plane, to go to Penang at that time, right? And then I bumped into with a CEO of another bank, and she said to me, "But you're HR, right? Why are you visiting branches?" Okay. Because they won't believe you, right? If you preach from the ivory tower, okay?
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Plus, when they are trying to change things, it's not a perfect world. There are people around us, if not their own manager, who refuses to do it, right? Who's going to save them? Who's going to clear the path for them, if not you? So that's another ritual, Bharat. I hope I'm answering your question, but we commit to being that. So now, because of COVID-19, we continue. That's why, we're also killing ourselves, right? Having these sessions via our newfound, it has been in existence since before COVID, but we didn't use them, right? The Zooms, the Microsoft Teams, right, is wonderful because every apo, akong, tata, in the most rural areas, no Zoom right now. So we do helicopter in and say, is it working? I had one yesterday, right? And we discover new things to deal with every day. So the other part, I suppose, I might, just jump in. I wanted to also talk about making sure that we treat humans as humans. So recognize that their well-being, even us, right? Like I said, I could be very demotivated and I could go into anxiety, and depression if I helicopter into a small area, and I find that, hey, we've not reached them, right? In terms of the agility, for example. It could be, I could go into depression. So my mental health and well-being, right, our people is equally important. We have, for example, certified mental and well-being first aiders, right, in the organization, in recognition of the fact that like I said, treat your employees as human beings. They have needs, they have feelings, right? They have emotions. And again, gone are the days when you say, when you come into the office, leave your personal stuff behind. That's BS, right? I'm a whole person. If I have a child, I have a child, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's spot on. And Bharat replies in a very, I mean, he says, my favorite is the Damansara branch. Miss Peggy is my hero. Now she's in the Subang Jaya branch and been banking for Maybank for 30 years. So he's a big fan, right? And you know, I'm
people make my day when they give me actual names of staff for me to thank. So thank you so much, Bharat. You just made my day.
So you got Miss Peggy there. A couple more questions, and then we're going to take a quick short break, and we'll come back. You know, Sekar Shanmugam says, you know, do you think, and this is more personal, I think, do you think your background in finance and being a CA allows you to position HR to be business centric? And he says, I seldom see this across the HR profession.
Sekar, you're so right. You know, like I said, it wasn't by design. It wasn't my brilliant, plan that I arrive into HR. But you know, again, I'm so blessed with people angels who open doors for me. Now, I think, Sekar, you're right, because in my early days in HR, right? Well, in the first place, when my client, I was actually doing consulting at that time. My client, the vice chairman, right? When he said to me, Nora, why don't you join us, right? And I said, oh, okay. I didn't think about that, but what role are you thinking of? And he said, HR. And my heart dropped, because I was like, he must have the wrong person. Okay. So then I said to him, well, Tun, I think you've got the wrong person, right? Have you looked at my CV? I said, right? But anyway, to cut the story short, right? Then I discovered, so now I enter into HR. Well, it was a bit condescending. I was like, why should I do HR, right? So when I joined HR, because I knew it's like beaten to death, okay? Every conference for HR folks were saying, get a seat on the table, right? And then when you've got a seat on the table, what are you doing about it, right? So it is important, I think, Sekar, it has helped me, because when you speak the language of the business, right? So one of the first things I did in my early days in HR, right, I took it upon myself that if I'm going into something that's not sexy, I want to make it sexy. Okay, so I then took it upon myself to talk to as many HR professionals as possible and say, hey guys, have your dashboards, because those people, when they look at numbers, right, they can't argue. Okay, so at least one of the things that you must have with you, data, right? So even before VUCA and IR 4.0, right, even those days, I have always been saying, have your dashboards, right? Show people data, start with that, then only begin your sales pitch. Okay. So it has helped, Sekar, and that's why I make it a point to tell people, I've actually taken a lot of engineers, and I've got one of my current successor candidates that I'm grooming, right? She was our head of investor relations. Okay, she was doing so well, and but I spoke to her and I said, you know what? I think you have the raw materials to be groomed as my successor. Would you like it? And she loved it. She jumped, and she's now with me for about 2.5 years now, right? On that readiness acceleration. But that has helped. So but that doesn't mean that I do. My other successor candidates are homegrown HR, if you like. But the first thing I sent them to are on business financials, right?
Yeah.
Learn how to read financial statements, right?
Yep.
And understand what do people look at? What do our internal customers look at when we talk about credit worthiness and so forth? So it really helps. It really helps.
Yeah.
But it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
You don't have to be an expert. Right?
And I think that point, I mean, myself also, I mean, coming from the business side of or the financial side, understanding the balance sheet, having the business acumen significantly helps you, and being able to empathize, right? I mean, if you haven't done sales, how do you empathize with the sales folks? and be able to understand the pain that they're going through at this point in time. And a couple of comments coming in. Marissa says, bring the human leader, right? Because I think the comment you made earlier on was we are human beings, not human doings, right? And I think that's good. But I mean, she has a quick question that maybe we can answer, and then we'll take a break. How does the banking industry balance the need for compliance and the culture of innovation and productivity? How does how does Maybank do this? So compliance and yet there's this innovation and driving change and pivoting.
Yeah, Marissa, you've touched on a very, very important point, especially for a bank, right? But for the longest time, people in banking throw Bank Negara and the regulators under the bus, okay, for everything that they don't want to do, okay. When you ask them to do something different, when you ask them to think creatively, oh well, Bank Negara says we have to, right? That's nonsense, really, because then I took it upon myself to speak to the gods, if you like, right? And they say, come on, right? We say you have to be risk averse. We say you have to take into considerations risk mitigations. That's all, right? How you do it, right? You tell us. That's exactly the position. So Marissa, I'm oversimplifying it. It's taken some time for us, but again, comparatively, we're faster. I have to repeat that, right? To debunk that myth, right? And we've been proven right. So because we've done a few, right, of the debunking, if you like, the confidence has been significantly increased. So people now understand that being compliant does not mean that you do the wrong things right, for example, right? That's another, tagline of ours to help us in breaking the mindsets. So we still can, right? And of course, picking the right person, Marissa. It's so important that you have the right person driving in the driver's seat, right? Our chief compliance officer, for example, right? He's the most creative person who's very careful. And that's a very potent combination when you actually have, hands-on knowledge of how banking operations work, and yet you are a creative person. So all we need to do is just encourage, right? And motivate him and get him, give him the as much current knowledge as possible. Then he will just bring the two together and he will influence the entire team, right? Our group chief risk officer, right, is someone who, who's witty and fun, and, so, the reverse of the what people have in their minds for a chief risk officer, isn't it? So, we are also very careful in terms of the entire talent cycle, right? You need to recruit the right people, and then you need to support them to be able to perform right. And then, we have to develop them right, and then make sure we pay them right? And then retain the right people, because that's important. And that's our talent cycle. Now, retaining the right people is also key. I need to plug it in there because, although we are very caring people, I hope a lot of people would vet for that, right? But that doesn't mean we're soft. I am not soft. I fire people every month, right? But when I fire people, I make sure that they land on their feet. I think that's the difference, right? And because of that, we've got tools in the organization, and we've built that confidence. I have a program called Maybank Go Ahead, Take Charge, for example, right? Where we deal with, and diversity and inclusivity is not just nice words for us, right? Because if you take just that program, right, we cater to diversity. Because the first pillar, there are 4 pillars. The first pillar is reskilling, but not everybody wants to be reskilled and can be reskilled, right? The next 2 pillars is about flexing. So we do have people who've been converted to 3-day work week workers and so forth. But the fourth is an innovation that we're proud of, right? Where we actually are able to transform and change our people from being staff to customer, to SMEs, right? And the difference is we do not just pay termination packages, because that is proven. Even if you pay the most generous package, 3 years equivalent, right? People are going to just deplete it in the first year. It's proven, right? They either finish it by paying up their loans, or paying their loans and buying their dream car. Okay, right? And then they find themselves out of funds, right, in the second year. What we've done, and this is not just words, because we've got actual cases already, right? A good number actually, where a portion of what we would have paid as termination package becomes their seed funding, their capital, right? And our people are supposed to be people who can help them, right? Build their business, and we let go once they are okay, right? So those are things that we do, Marissa. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much. I knew we got tons of comments. I think Bharat actually gave a compliment back to Peggy this morning, and Peggy replied, "Thank you for your support and prayers all these years. Really encouraging and motivated." And I think Marissa comments that it's a potent combination and such a fine line, balancing between tough love, sometimes what we call love but tough love, right? To some extent. We're going to take a short break. We're speaking with Dr. Nora Manaf from Maybank. At this point, we're taking a quick 30-second break, and we'll be right back here. We've got tons of questions, and I think it's really exciting. We're learning a lot about not just Maybank, but about insights in general. So here's something from the northern part of Malaysia, Hokkien.
Jackie 你有冇聽啲咧叫 app 叫 Necole
是做乜？
唔是啦，我教你講 app 啦嘛。嘅你看啲 Necole 你看，依家了後真正係 article、podcast、courses 嘅啊。我教你講啊，你愛變好命，你愛好命。
愛好命啊，定
你愛趁錢無？
趁錢你咯。
啊，所以啊，你特別用 Necole，真係說你讀了啦，你看article 嘅了，讀了，你變真高嘅，知無？
唔要無，嚟我看啲。
有年你看啲 article 看安怎好命，安怎趁錢哇！呀，你講他，
一個一個人看好了嘛，真來就高。
有啦，教你講你嘛，你咪聽，當見到特別去看，特別看個了，
讀個了。你講你真高啦，我
OK， 好，你先好嚟。
Welcome back to Rethinking Balance Sheet. Dr. Nora, you speak Hokkien? I know you're from Penang, right?
Because my mom's Cantonese.
Oh, okay.
I took
So
a little bit of Mandarin in school, but then it's now Rojak,
so we got tons of comments. I mean, Marissa, continues. It's a great display of entrepreneurship, right? And there's a lot of thanks and wisdom coming. I'm going to just do one quick question from another guest, Husni, and then Ravi's got a couple of questions up his sleeves. But I think this is related to your what we call employee surveys conducted in Maybank. So his question is, Dr. Nora, are these employee surveys a reference or a gauge to what the banks need to focus on? And some do it just so that they can put it on their sustainable reports. So, what about Maybank?
Oh, Husni. Thanks for the question. I think people in Maybank are going to tell you that I don't get off their backs, right? So yes, our employee engagement survey, we are very proud of our results. The latest one, 90% of our staff, actually responded. You know how it is, right? If there is no evidence that you take them seriously, they wouldn't, after a few years, they're just going to forget it, right? So, alhamdulillah, thank God, right? That's one indicator that they know we do something about it, right? So, no, we don't do anything for the sake of just doing. One of the discipline, that for example, for my HR human capital team is, I tell them, don't you dare, right, go to a team meeting, a management team meeting, right, without all your data points, right? And one of the staple in the data points is the employee engagement survey results, right? Because, you need to be able to make sense to the different teams that you're talking to and the different individuals, right? And your credibility, I said, is at stake. If you're just talking about giving Panadol to everybody, when one person needs Nexium, and I'm talking about medication that I take actually. Okay, that's for my related gastritis, right? So you need to understand, and you need to have data, right, about the people that you speak to. So both individuals as well as management teams or units, right, one of the staples, Husni, is the employee engagement survey result. Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead, Ravi.
Maybe I think the first thing I'd say about Datuk Nora is I think we need to have her here again. There's just too many questions. And she's obviously a hot celebrity. So I think Dato, I hope we'll have you again on the show sometime in the future. That's where I'll start with. But I think so much what you say resonates with me. I've been in the financial institution. But perhaps I'm going to jump two questions that I think if we can cover to an extent today will be very useful. First is that this whole issue around productive work, the work that you learn at the office, and that's real skills that you bring to your customers, to your organization where you work, vis-a-vis educational institutions. Because I think if a lot of people, first point of contact, do I go and get an ACCA here, or do I go and get an MBA out there, or do I hire somebody with a BA and then in a bachelor's in finance or business, not quite getting what I need? Maybe you can just share a little on that question. And on the issue of culture and et cetera, on the second part, I think if I have a company and anybody in finance, it's this whole idea of integrity. Yeah. And we've had our fair share of troubles in Malaysia, if I would say, on the issue of integrity and honesty. This is probably the two questions. I know we're probably running out of time, but this is just, I would love to hear your views on this.
Sure. Okay, Ravi. Well, the first one, my answer, right, will be clearer if I give everybody a little bit of insight about myself, right?
Yeah.
Now, I've had 14 jobs, 14, right, in 5 different industries. Banking is my fifth, right? For 12 of the 14 jobs, I did not have the qualification nor experience for. Yeah. Like HR, right? I didn't have anything. But, right? And I was a teacher and I was not a trained teacher. But, thank God, because I'm a kiasu person, right? I ace whatever, people give me, right? So I have been brought up that way as a professional. That's why, you will then, you can guess my answer, right? I don't care what you have, really, right? And with in banking, in my early days in banking, early 2000, right? The regulators was pulling their hair, right? Because people were not getting certified for for being in credit jobs, right? I'm sure Ravi remember that. Yeah. But then we found ourselves, people were certified to death, right? With certificates that fill out 4 walls, but they do lousy credit papers, right? So you can't reconcile the two. My God, the person is so qualified, but this is crap, right? In terms of practicality, logic, reasoning, judgment, right? So I'm not a big fan of just getting paper, by the way, guys. So, and I've had to sit people down to explain to them why, just by getting an MBA, I'm not giving you a salary increase, right? Or not giving you the next plum job. You have to fight it out with the person who may be, I don't know, we have many in Maybank who got into the job with only an SPM, but over the years got, did their certifications and so forth. Fight it out, right? Because, it's about what you actually bring to the table. So that's my answer for the first one, I think.
Perhaps before you continue, you can share with me, you've given the right answer there. But as an organization, how do I get my staff to behave just like the way you did? Or is it just innate in people and it's not nothing can be done?
No, Ravi, a great question. I just now I said, people over fall in love with the word culture, right? I'm a believer that humans, you and I, right? Whatever our culture is supposed to be, right? But I will respond to how you speak to me. I will respond to how you treat me, right? Even if it's not my natural self. So you can actually make a difference and make someone behave differently by just how you treat them and how you recognize them. So that is something I believe is very powerful. And that's something that we've been using, right? We force people to treat people the right way, whether you like it or not, right? and people respond to it, right? So that's my belief, Ravi. Okay.
So
brilliant.
and yeah, go ahead, Nora. Go ahead, Nora.
Second question on
question.
integrity.
Yeah.
Integrity, again, as a bank, especially as a bank, right? You only have one strike, right? So you actually will be fired, right? But okay, I'm a person who also believes in second chances, because I am a person, as you now know, who has been given a lot of chances, right? So what do we do, right? Firstly, please make sure our policies are there. The right policies. Again, it's very important to have the right policies. So, for example, my HR team, my HR policies, it is compulsory for my heads to review every policy at least once every 2 years to make sure it's current, right? And so, policies are not cast in stone. But once you have it, you actually have to supplement it with ongoing communication. So, in terms of integrity for us, right? My team, my internal comms team, white label cases and actually send out, right? To make sure that people understand, oh, this is happening. Oh, someone got fired because of it, right? So it's a reminder. Now, once you've done that, then you fire if you still do it, right? Because you have to be fair to those who have integrity. So I think that's my point.
Yep. So just a quick call out. We've got folks from Silicon Valley. Paul Marca, who's the assistant provost of Stanford University. He's on the show. So Paul clarifies again. There's a difference between education and training. We need both. I think in relation to the point that was out there. And I think you had a question, Ravi, on culture. Was that
that's I think you talked about two things, but like I said, we got such a hot superstar on today. I'm going to give
the audience
some two questions again, some interesting questions.
So
I've been watching CNBC, and there's been a question. I think Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan have both been discussing about the post-pandemic working environment. Goldman says you got to be in the office. I think JP is saying, well, we can't really go back, but certain parts of culture requires you going back to the office. And the second question is going to ask you is women in finance. This has been a tough one. I would almost say it's almost tough for guys. It's long hours, but Malaysia has been blessed, right? We've had a chairman of the SC, central governor of the central bank, led by women. Again, maybe you could share that. In fact, we've got a whole series of top women coming in the next few shows. Maybe you can just we could close off the show on these two questions.
Sure. Okay. On the first point, I am totally not with Goldman Sachs.
Well, not how to run your people anyway.
Yeah. I was so disappointed when I actually watched his interview, and I was like, what the heck, right? So never let a crisis go to waste. Okay. I agree with you, Ravi. I believe, of course, with due respect, right? With the pain and the losses that we are even today, right, until today, experiencing with COVID-19. But I am so thankful for COVID-19 as well, for its silver linings, right? Because there are many things that we already knew wasn't working, right? Brought upon also because of the digital tools that mankind have today. We talk about it, but we don't really do much about it because we just couldn't, because the ecosystem, right? There's dependability and so forth. We just couldn't get things going in fast enough. COVID-19 hit us, and then whoa, there you go, right? We can accelerate so many things. For example, the work from home, right? When I was based in London, 2005, right? That was a long time ago, right? Some of you were not born, perhaps. So I was already on work from home. But work from home is a bad word when I came back to Malaysia, right? People are so suspicious of things that, of course, it's in human nature, right? Me too, of course, right? We are suspicious of things that we don't know, right? And we don't get the practice. Well, COVID-19 has given you the practice now. So Goldman Sachs, please, right? Hybrid. That's diversity and inclusivity. That's the lesson that we've learned as well from our people, right? And we did dipstick surveys right from April to 2020, right, until today, right? And we saw how the responses changed as people experienced it, right? So today, and actually it was November 2020, we launched our policy. So it's official. Whoever, you can apply if you want to permanently work from home. So today we have close to 3,000 already who has received their confirmation letter to say you are continuing to work from home. We call them the mobile workforce. Even when the coast is clear for everybody to return. Now, of course, there's a management model to it. So our minimum is 4+1. Those that are 3+2. What does that mean? At least the equivalent of 1 day you do come into the office. But even then, we tell managers just by looking at the person doesn't mean anything, right? Yeah. You curate the time when the person needs to come to the office so that it is meaningful, right? So that's my answer for the. So I'm on the JP Morgan, on the HSBC UK side, right, yep. Where they've actually demolished their offices. Sure. Yeah, we know that, right? So for Maybank as well, yeah, we are refitting our floors. And so forth. So, having the 3,000 off also helps us make sure that our floors, our sitting, right, is going to be SOP friendly. Again, don't let the crisis go to waste. And performance indicators, right? Because in the past, when you have this space, you maximize it. Don't give me the optimize, because really that's not what you maximize it, and you get rewarded for doing a good job. Now we know that's stupid, right? Because people are, don't even have elbow room, right? Yeah. So create space, but diversify, because there are those who and we have data for that is a fact that people go into depression when they can't go to the office, for example. So diversity, right? There are people who need to come to the office because that's how they're going to be productive. Fine, we include you.
Allow that. Yeah.
Yeah, there are those who, but it's easier said than done, because again, there are people who worry, if my manager is someone who prefers to go into the office and I want to work from home, right? Will I, be looked upon as lesser to him or her, right? And my chances to be promoted becomes lesser. We are dealing with all of this to ensure that it does not, right, become a disadvantage to anyone. Yeah. Women in finance, yes, I know, right? In the past, right?
And Nora, maybe to add to that question, I know it's advice for women in finance, but Yasser actually asked a question. Maybe you can blend it together. Is if there is also advice that you can give to people who are coming out in a very tough environment where jobs are scarce and there's so much uncertainty. So I think one is advice for women, but I think the other piece is just general, the young folks out there who are struggling to figure out what's happening. If you can kind of condense that into one question and get Yasser's question also answered. Trying my best to get everyone's question answered.
Okay. So Yasser, thank you again. Yeah, because this is again a very, very important point, and it's linked. One of the points that's linked to lessons that COVID-19 has given us, right? I spend a lot of time and really, why do I have to? I take it upon myself because you and I'm sure all of us, right? What we do is not just a job, right? Of course, I'm not Mother Teresa. I need them to pay too, but I do it for more than the pay, right? So I do accept, right, when people ask me to come and talk to students and so forth, because I need them to understand, right, that it's not just something that happens to the lucky ones, that you get your break, even though you don't have a permanent job, right? And the fact is, organizations like Maybank, is trying to literally make sure that jobs can be shared, so that there's financial inclusion, sustainability, right? UN SDG, right? Inclusivity of and reduced inequalities. How can you have reduced inequalities if your only model is what we've had since decades ago, right? There's no way. I mean, SMEs, right? And this is something I bring to I'm advising supposedly to the National Labour, Committee, right? I say to them, hey, you can't force the SMEs to just raise the minimum pay without helping them find a breakthrough to also, increase their revenues and profit and PBT, right? Otherwise, they're just going to close shop. and then it's lose all the way, right? So the ecosystem needs to come together. So the definition of what a job is all about. So I stay away from the word jobs. If you notice, I talked about tasks. I talked about, actions that's needed, because you need to break it down and share it, right? And because me as a person, I can't be perfect, right? I'm good at A, but the job today requires A, B, C. Come on, Roshan, take B, right? And I'm happy because I just do A, and then the rest of the time I'm in my bakery business, right? And so forth, right? So that concept is not theory. It's not something that some people enjoy. Now I've got plenty of examples of people who are earning, and these are fresh grads, right? Are earning so much more selling their hobby, right? So I say to them, I say to their friends, right? Look at how happy she is, or how happy he is, right? Do you know what? Be careful what you ask for, because when I give you a permanent job, you have to come in at a certain time, like the old days especially, and you can't leave until the boss says so, right? And then the worst part is you don't like the boss, and you can't choose, okay? You can't choose the boss. If you don't like the boss, you go, not the boss, right? So come on, right? Be careful what you wish for. You want to, but parents, there you go. And this is the ecosystem that I was talking about. If parents look at, people like them as bumps and not daughter-in-law or son-in-law material, okay, then we're back to square one again. So the COVID-19 silver lining is now everybody understands there's a whole different way of doing things out there.
That's true. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. No, and I it's about time. So I just very quickly, Marissa says thank you. It's very insightful. Thank you, Datuk Nora. Paul talks reinforces in a war for talent. Great approach is to talk about the hybrid experience. Shamini says thank you. There's one question, and one more person says very inspired by the session. Really special. To have you with us. There's one question I want to end with, and maybe if you can do a 30-second response to this question, and it's from Daniel. And Daniel talks a little bit, and this was maybe to test your business acumen, Datuk Nora. And I just want to reinforce, Datuk Nora is was named the top 50 HR leaders, not in Malaysia, right? Top 50 HR leaders in the world, right? So she's one of the top 50 in the world. Very few Malaysians have an honor of being in a top any list, right? But Datuk Nora is top 50 in the world, right? And this quick question, if you can answer, and he thinks that traditional banking is going to be basically kicked off tangent by the digital bank that's rolling out, and I think the licenses are just being given out at this point in time. Do you think there's some rethinking that needs to happen? Is there going to be some reduction in the workforce, and maybe what are you guys preparing for that? So maybe very quickly, Datuk Nora, if you can respond to that.
Daniel, you're so right, but I seldom use the word hate, right? I hate the reactions that is so predictable, right? No, because of course, right? Of course, banks are threatened, and rightly so, right? Probably getting a bit too arrogant, right? So but what reactions am I talking about? Like the Bank of America, right? Happily said, okay, we've reduced 10,000 people, and many banks, right? When the minute they announced we're reducing 6,000, 5,000, the share price increased, right? Analysts love them, and shareholders love them. Please, okay, that's the easiest thing to do. It doesn't take a very good a good set of leaders to do it, right? The harder part is what we're trying to do. Okay, like I said just now, the Maybank Go Ahead Take Charge was not my brainchild. I mean, I just thought about it because when I looked at the career transition centers that organizations do when they retrench people, right? So that idea was the seed, if you like, right, of the thinking. But that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing, right? We're making sure everybody lands on their feet, whether you get reskilled, right, and so forth. Do we reduce headcount? Yes, but not by putting people on the street, right? Our high in my time in Maybank was about 48,000, right? I think it was 2011. Today we are 42,000, right? So we have reduced, but like I said, we do it responsibly, and I don't think any of those who left will say bad things about how they've been treated, right? Because again, we make sure they land well. So you are right, Daniel. We will need to, of course, respond, but I'm a fighter. My colleagues are fighters, right? We don't think we are going to be going the Kodak way, okay? God willing, inshallah, okay? Because we understand that it's about focusing on you and I, right? Like Uber, right? Uber, everybody wanted them dead, right? I remember those days. I was in London, right? When the black there was a demonstration, and then I was in Indonesia also, right? And it was a Thursday, I think, or Wednesday, and there was notice going out that they're going to be going to the streets to protest. And you know, if you're in Indonesia, macet, right? You take the first flight out because otherwise you won't be able to go home. So so I remember those vividly. Okay, why are they successful? Because they focus on you and I, right? The pain that we face. So this is what we're trying to do, Daniel, with a lot of humility. We say to our team, right? You fix the pain of our customers, and we will survive, right? And we will have a sustainable business. People don't need banks. I will echo that, but people need financial well-being now. That's our business, right, Daniel? So, and
Well,
the risking part is that, right? As long as you can help a customer, you have a job with us. We have a job with us. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an engaging hour. I thought we'll take 40 minutes, but and still ton more questions that we haven't answered. Apologies for those who we haven't answered. We'll try and get your answers to you online as best as possible. Maybe we'll try and get Nora to answer them online to you. But thank you so much, Datuk Nora Manaf, Group Chief Human Capital Officer of Maybank, and top 50 HR leaders in the world. Something we as Malaysians can be proud of. We've got a top 50 HR leader in our midst. Really appreciate you being with us on our show. We want to wish everyone a blessed weekend. Please stay safe and continue to do well. Great stuff. I see so many comments coming out. Thank you so much for your comments. And thank you so much for joining us. Next week, as usual, every Friday, we look at the balance sheets. Friday, 6 p.m., we have Tech Talk. You can join us, and every Wednesday at 12:30 we have a psychology show where we look at psychological experiments. And of course, on Thursdays at 10 a.m. we talk to business leaders all over the world. Yesterday we had Tina Towers, and next week we have Rob Wise from Australia. So every day there's something for you here. Thank you again. Have a great weekend. Goodbye, everyone, and see you next week at Rethinking Balance Sheets. Thanks again, Datuk Nora.
Thank you, Datuk Nora.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.